Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining this session, the 18th session of our Sunday podcast or webinar, whatever you say. And today we have a very interesting topic, not only for the IT professionals, but it is applicable for any industry for that matter. And also, it has got some very interesting thought process around whether we should stick to our professional careers or we may take a risk and come out of that and try to think something beyond what we are doing today, right, considering this disruption at this point in time. So our theme would be today, first let me just talk a little bit about the topic and a little bit of context setting on that. Uh, so today our topic would be Tara, from surviving to thriving in the age of AI. Now, where it come from, first of all? Now, we all have been knowing about one very famous concept called VUCA, right? That was a very famous acronym, right? Till last few years, or maybe last 1 or 2 decades, we used to call it as volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Now, for the past 2 or 3 years, or maybe more than that, right, we all have been observing a new acronym which is called BANI, right? Brittle, anxious, nonlinear, and incomprehensible, and which is perfectly fitting with the way AI is disrupting, right, the way we have been working for so long. Now, what is brittle here? Because things we are becoming too vulnerable. Now, we all may be experts in certain area, but AI is continuously challenging us, right, with its surprises and also the kind of disruptive mindset, right? So it is no more a deterministic, but it is a probabilistic kind of mindset that where nothing is fixed. We all know that the change is constant, but still it is continuously every day almost it is evolving, and that is making us very brittle, right? So we all have to also go with the flow. Next is anxious. Now people are very, very concerned about their future. Now, as I said, that they have built a kind of expertise for the last maybe couple of decades or maybe 2.5 decades, but all of a sudden they are thinking they have to again retrain themselves, right? There's a concept of unlearning, relearning, and learning, right? All those things are coming into picture. So the person like who has been, let's say, an architect for the last, I mean, started as a kind of technical person and became an architect, and all of a sudden he's finding that, okay, I don't have a place. Now AI is going to come and take my job away, and I am sitting in a position or I am in the age that I cannot take any further risk. So people are anxious, and it is not only true, though I have given an example of a right person with 25 years of experience, but it is not only for them, it is always true for every people, starting from a 22 years kid like who's fresh out of college, or right a 55, 56 years of people like who have been playing the role of a leader, and all of a sudden they're finding that okay, they don't have a choice at this point again, right? They have to continuously adapt, accustom, and adapt to the kind of situation. And it is also, like as I already said, it is not a deterministic kind of thing that we are having a linear relationship between the x and the y axis. Like it is always non-linear, and no one can predict what it is going to come up with. And of course, incomprehensible, like which is kind of self-explanatory. Now, there is no need to again reinvent the wheel in saying about what artificial intelligence is all about. We all know about these things, but it brings or it comes up with a lot of promises of innovation, efficiency, and the new opportunity. But as I said, it is also bringing right a lot of fear, insecurity, right, and uncertainty in our mind. Now, what are the impacting area? Could be the future of the work, could be layoffs, right? The mid management crisis, the mid leadership crisis, right? People are not finding their places. People are not thinking. I mean, the leadership may not be maybe thinking that these guys are not fitting to the uncertainty that is going to come up with, right? So this is a kind of uncertainty in the leadership role, and even with an identity. Like I cannot say that okay, I have been playing this role and then I'll continue to play this role. Sometimes I need to change my identity. I need to constantly switching right my hats, right? What role I have played is no more relevant here. I need to right turn or switch onto a kind of wearing a different hat altogether. So these are the things which are coming up, and where these T.A.R.A framework is coming into picture. Even though it's when I right, give you the acronym, right, which is trust, accept, resolve, and align. It seems to be like pronouncing like a T.A.R.A, but it is, since it is, we are evolving from this Eastern zone, like we are typically calling it as a T.A.R.A framework. And also, like through these webinar, we would like to explore, right, the future of the culture, strategy, and skills, and especially in the context of Bengal. Now, with a lot of introduction, I mean, I have given, now it's time to introduce our speaker who is going to, right, take us through with this journey. So my friend, Shukarna Bhadro, right, she's an organizational culture transformation coach certified in emotional intelligence and a transpersonal therapist. She brings a strong consulting experience to CII and Kearney, having led large global and diverse teams. She's someone who believes in building high performing, compassionate teams. After 2 decades across India and US and corporate leadership roles, she now focuses on culture strategy, leadership development, and coaching through her proprietary framework called T.A.R.A, which is revolving around trust, accept, resolve, align, and we would like to hear more on that. Now, what is her mission? Her mission is to help the leaders and the organization strengthen strategic competence with fostering empathy, resilience, and inclusive growth. So we are privileged to have her right in this forum. Now, one last thing, that today's session will be revolving around 5 themes or 5 dimensions. So first, right, dimension would be, right, to define what is fears, insecurity around AI, what are the typical challenges that we are seeing. And the second dimension is, right, on the emotional intelligence and the human excellence. Then, like, we would like to explore more on the T.A.R.A and their 4 dimensions, like trust, accept, resolve, and align. Then, right, how are we thinking about the future of culture, strategy, and AI? And of course, the last one, last but not the least, is the how Bengal is evolving, how Bengal is getting prepared with the disruption, right? So that would be our, right, focus area for today. Now, with this and with no further introduction, let's, right, get started with our today's topic. And as I said, the first area of discussion is on fear and insecurity around AI. Now, this does not need any context setting or introduction, right? With these disruptive, I would say, technology, right? We are seeing there are a lot of fear, anxiety. People are losing jobs. People are losing control. Their job roles are changing, right? And they are seeing that the juniors are taking away their jobs, right? And there had been a lot of pressure, right, from the leadership team, executive team to get yourself transformed. Sometimes people do not even know that how can they be fitting and what is AI and what is the role and how because technical team members are pretty clear on that part. But when it comes to the mid management and the senior leadership, people are kind of more anxious that, okay, how I can fit into this AI disruptive world? What is going to be my role? I cannot go ahead and do the coding. Maybe, may not be, right? So this fear and anxiety is always kind of coming into the picture. So from that perspective, my first question, Shukarna, what are some of the biggest fears you see people, because you have been working with them, people are inviting you for the workshop, right, for their transformation. So what are the some of the biggest fear that you see people carry when it comes to AI? Over to you.
Thank you, Shubhabrata. And thank you for the lovely introduction. I think you've said it all. Uh, I think that whole model around Bunny that starts with the brittleness of the ecosystem. So, what starts out the fear is a typical fear. What people have not realized is this is our biggest fear that we have learned from our ecosystem. Our biggest fear is fear of survival. Okay. Any fear, and working as a transpersonal therapist, I have seen any fear, if I try to explore it, and this is something that every person will eventually come to, there are certain emotions. So one of those emotions is fear. Even anger, anger is not, it is an outcome. Anger is like fever. Okay. So the symptoms are of anger, but underlying issue for anger is fear and insecurity. So when our survival is threatened, what happens is either we go into a fight mode, a flight mode, a freeze mode, and there is a mode called the fawn mode. So fawn is specifically in the case of my gender, our our primitive wiring is to align with people and share whatever is going on in our lives. So women collect and say that, okay, this is not working out for me, this is how I'm feeling. They will never address the issue with the person or the organization. They will collect in groups and talk about their issues. So that is fun. So these are the primary four modes that we operate in. Freeze typically is very interesting. So fight is, when you're fighting it. Flight is when you want to take off from the situation. And freeze is when you're just sort of, you don't know how to react to the moment.
Mhm.
Now, when I talk of fear generated by AI, there are two fears. Primarily, there are two fears. One, like you rightly mentioned, the fear that is visible, which is, uh, you know, that AI will take away my job. Okay. There is a second fear, which is a bigger and a mass fear, but perhaps people have not articulated that fear yet, that insecurity yet, which is AI being able to do anything that it wants to do.
Correct.
Where there is that fear of morality and ethics. Okay, what if my photo gets online? What
Mhm.
will people do with it? Now, this fear is transcending across different generations in different ways. So perhaps the younger generation, they are building into the process. There is the older generation who are still onto legacy systems. And by legacy systems, I don't mean technological systems.
Right.
I'm thinking of legacy mindset,
Mindset. Yeah.
you know, who are now navigating through, oh, these youngsters know so much, or, my data is getting online. What happens? So that fear stems from fear of replaceability and fear of violation.
Mhm.
So these are primarily the two fears that I think we are navigating through. And this is becoming collective because we are trying to address it very quickly. We are investing in AI, we are taking away jobs. Now we are listening to the stories that, X company has cut out Y number of people.
Right.
Oh, what is that doing to me? It's reflecting back my own fear of survival. You know, early in the morning, if you wake up, the first thing you'll think is, okay, what are the new technologies coming up?
Mhm.
Even people who are trying to learn AI too quickly and think that, they're on the top of the game. That is
Right.
because, we want to grasp as much straw as possible so that we don't drown.
Correct.
Imagine the fear of survival that we are at. So, this is my submission, to your question, what kind of fear and insecurity exists as far as AI is concerned. It is the same fear. I mean, if you go back to the age of computers, when computers were coming in,
Mhm.
or when the industrial revolution happened, that everything is going to be mechanized.
Mhm.
And now we have this, what is AI? AI is simply the ability of a computer to store and process large, very, very, very large amounts of data. Previously, computers did not have, and this is something that, I was speaking to somebody in the US defense who was telling me this, that we have these large, very large data centers, and we have the ability to process all of this data. Have we seen it? What it looks like? Most of us haven't. Do we know? Is it tangible? Is it in our hands? The user interface is in our hands, not what is happening in the back end. So even the ones who are building it, they are coming out and saying that we don't know what Frankenstein's monster we are building. So is the fear real? Yes. Are we trying to navigate through it? Yes. Are we doing our best? Maybe not.
Excellent. Now, I really like the point you said that sometimes, right, we become angry, right? And angry is, of course, a kind of symptom. And that's exactly uh, uh, coming to the, I mean, we are getting to the next question on the same line, that fear does not just exist in isolation, it shapes the behavior. So typically we say, like, whenever we are frustrated, right, we are feeling insecure, and all of a sudden, like, our behavior is kind of a reflection of that. So we becomes too agitated, right? We becomes, uh, I mean, anger. We start quarreling with each other. We start behaving in a kind of bad way, right, with the people. Even if I'm not that kind of person, but it gets reflected in our behavior. And again, as you rightly said, there can be different dimensions of fear. There can be different dimensions of insecurity. Now, since we mostly are the kind of technical people out here, or maybe we had a technology background. So this could be a consulting background also. This could be a project management background also. But typically, whenever we all are coming, mostly most of us are coming from the IT background, we all started our career as a technologist. And after that, right, probably we have chosen our path, right? And we are coming, and now we are wearing different hats. Sometimes we are wearing multiple hats as well. So when AI, and AI is not something new, right? As you rightly pointed out, it has been there for quite some time. It's not nothing new. But yes, maybe because of the storage space cost and many other things, now it is coming within the reach of the people, right, where people can use it. And because of this generative AI, right, now people are kind of knowing it in a more way. Other before that, mostly the technical people, computer science guys were aware of it, or maybe the electronics guys were aware of it. It was not coming to the reach of the common people. But now it is becoming reachable to everyone. Everyone understands about some of the jargons about, right, generative AI, the different tools. Some of my doctor friends are even asking, the Shubhabrata, can you tell me some of the AI tools which I can use, right, in my area, right? So it was unimaginable, right, a few days before. Now, coming back to the original question, that how do you think fear influences? Already, I think you have given us some bit of answer to it, but if I try to be more specific, how do you think the fear influences the way we respond to new technologies? And that is not only true for the aged people like us. It is also true for, and I've been hearing this from some of our freshers also. That what is the point in learning a new language? Because in our college days, school days, we used to learn about C, then C++, then Java, etc., etc. Right? As and when it will come, we'll pick it. Right? That is their mindset, and that is true. So they are not trying to pay too much of attention and going deeper into it, because they know it very well. Things are going to change very soon. So how do you think fear influences the way, right, we can be anyone respond to the new technologies, because where things are changing so fast?
So here is my take on it. I have seen different generations, and generations. I Let's talk about the Gen Z.
Mhm.
It's a uh, very interesting topic for many. There are a lot of challenges people see. I have seen people who are my peer set. Sometimes, it's a very loose way of saying that these generations, they don't want to learn, they don't want to do
Correct.
this, they don't want to do that. Somebody shared a very interesting video on YouTube on how the previous generation has always blamed the future generation for not being serious enough, not being this, not being that. We have to realize one thing, that education has revolutionized in the intake, in the way information is being taken in by, say, a 2 3 4 year old. The future generation, I believe, is, and this is not just belief, but this is also data, the future generation is always smarter in its ability to assimilate, in its ability to give back. But the future generation also brings back a lot of things that's cyclical. Now, when you say addressing uh, this whole concept of AI through our fears, so first of all, a bit of fear is good. That's how we have survived. A bit of
Correct.
stress is good. That's how we have survived from our cave days. I mean, if we didn't have fear of our ecosystem, we wouldn't survive.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe a good practice is early in the morning thinking of, what are the things that I'm afraid of? What are the things that are getting me nervous? And what do I do about it? So, like you said, that now there's anger, there's fear. What do we do about this fear? The important part is to channelize this fear into productivity.
Right.
The generations that don't want to learn a new language and they are questioning us. Incidentally, there is something that came out, from BBC. There was one of these researchers who mentioned the next generation is actually inventing its own language. So they speak in a language that you and I we have a hard time keeping up with.
Correct.
Okay. However, and this has come through what? This has come through their video games, their whole Minecrafts and everything. Okay. Now, somebody sitting in London understands what somebody sitting in Bengal is saying to what somebody sitting in Korea is saying. There's an integration of language. And we are not looking at it like that. Why it makes us uncomfortable is because our minds have been fed with a certain way of learning language. First of all, language in the way we speak, whether it's English or Bengali or whether it's a Java or a C++, language is science. But what have we been told? That language is art.
Mm.
Language is art. Maths is philosophy. Maths is art. Okay, if you knew how civilizations actually calculated their architectural sites, that is science, right?
Right.
That is an art. That manifested as art,
Mm-hmm.
right? What is language? Language is science. If you know how to, why certain languages have evolved in a certain manner through civilizations, you will know that it is science. It is the science of communication. But what have we made out of it? We have sort of clustered it into a degree. We have limited it into uh, our education systems to what degree you're earning out of it. So this transformation will have to happen and it has to happen quicker. And somebody like us, the millennials, we actually hold that space of bringing that transformation to people. We understand both the generations, the ones who are possibly towards the so-called the legacy system has said that 58 you retire, right? I refuse to believe that I'm going to retire at 58. Now I am at an age where I understand, where I'm trying to beginning to understand what the generations are saying. They give me the same responses, the responses are very quick.
Mm-hmm.
But the older generation also, they are used to a certain system. So here comes the place for compassion, for building that compassion. I liked, during the introduction when you mentioned, you emphasized on the word compassion. Why are we talking of compassion all the time? Because it is a very very important uh, element of emotional intelligence. And by compassion, I don't mean compliance. By compassion, I don't mean
Correct.
agreeing to everything that is going on around you. By compassion, I just mean the ability to hold space for the other person, for the other generation. Many people say that, the next generation is very, they use the word mufat,
Mm-hmm.
like they things very quickly. And this is across, I mean, whether it's somebody sitting in the US, whether it's somebody sitting here in Delhi, whether it is somebody sitting in Kolkata, I just hear that, the next generation is very, 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 very mufat. Okay. On one hand, what are we saying in our mythology? That after the Kali Yuga, there will be the Satya Yuga coming back, the age of authenticity. Now, when the Generation Z is saying that, we are not going to lie, we are not going to be the silent generation, we are not going to be the boomers, we are not going to be the millennials, we are going to speak our own language, we are going to tell our truth. we are not able to accept the age of authenticity.
Right.
So how we use our emotions to really understand the ecosystem, to hold space for the other, is going to be very, very important.
Absolutely. And can't agree more on that, right? On the word, as you said, right, about compassion. In fact, our next dimension is on that part only, right? That is how AI is going to impact our emotional intelligence and human excellence. So we all know that the machines, technologies can replicate the knowledge and the decision making, but cannot replace the humanity. Now, emotional intelligence, our ability to understand, manage, and connect with emotion becomes a defining quality in leadership. Now, let me take a very common example which everyone understands, right? So, typically in a IT industry, we have a functional manager, right, and we have a people manager. A functional manager gives us tasks, right, and we are functionally reporting to that person, right, for doing the work or getting the work done or whatever, right, or giving the work back to them or whatever assignment is given to us, we have to fulfill that. That's a transactional relationship. But apart from that, there is another person, right, who is my people manager, who can understand me, ideally, who should understand me, understand my challenges, understand my emotions, and understand my shortcomings, defines my career path, who should not be transactional with just give and take, but he should or she should define my way of working with my ability, my shortcomings, and it's a long term relationship. Now, having said that, does that mean that he's always or she's always right helping me or guiding? But because she or he is also having some duty or some responsibility to evaluate me, because ultimately it's not a charitable organization, right? We are being paid for whatever work we do. So when it comes to the appraisal process, I'm afraid moving forward, if that emotional intelligence, human excellence, right, compassion, these things are not there, how our life would be? Are they going to only rely on the data? Are they going to only rely on the RTO part, the return to office, the very common acronym that everyone uses, right? Or they're also believing on my ability, my challenges, my shortcomings. They will treat me as a human, but not as a humanoid, right? Or a robot. So my question to you would be, in this world, in a world increasingly shaped by technology, what role does emotional intelligence play?
Okay, so I'll give you an example. Let me start with this. So, you know, ChatGPT has started to replicate human emotions. Okay. If you start off, and I've seen this, I've experimented with this. If you start off a conversation with ChatGPT, stating your problems, okay, because most of the times I don't think we like to talk about mental health. Specifically, I've seen this in the Eastern region that mental health, if you come to me and say, Shukona, I have an issue with my mental health, I think I am having problems, etc. And I tell you, okay, uh, you go see a counselor, a therapist, a doctor, okay, you will hesitate. But if I come and tell you that I am facing that problem, you will say, why aren't you going to a therapist? Why aren't you seeing a counselor? Or if you get to know that I'm seeing a counselor or a therapist, you will be very supportive. Oh, yes, yes, you did the right thing. Okay. Now, therapy is a very, very interesting area where I have seen people always saying that he or she needs help. I don't need help because there is a stigma around this. What is happening is emotional intelligence, by its very definition, has got two aspects to it. One is leading self, and one is leading other. Okay, so a big portion of emotional intelligence is how you lead yourself. I'll come to that in a bit. So, to complete the example, if you go to ChatGPT and you type out any problem that you're facing, AI is designed to replicate emotional intelligence in a manner that it will agree to everything that you're saying. It will validate every emotion that you have. And at some point, you'll realize that that emotion is becoming very transactional. So for example, if I go and write that my boss is horrible. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that your boss is horrible. You're so then it'll give out. So do you want me to list out, ways to tackle this? It is, we don't realize it is bringing us down to a transactional level. Okay. What this poses as a challenge is that in no time, and I can assure you, in no time, we will be seeking out human contact. There is a limitation with generative AI. There is a limitation because too much of sugar is also not good for you.
Right.
So that too much of sugar will come as a solution.
Mm.
And initially, you will be very addicted to that sugar, just like any addict,
Right.
who wants some mishti in the morning.
Mhm.
So you'll be very addicted to that sugar initially. Then you'll realize it's bringing down your mental health. Okay. You will still need that human connection. Plus, when it comes to taking ethical decisions, compassionate decisions,
Right.
you can only use AI as a tool. It can
Mhm.
give you an indicator, a marker. It can scan your body and tell you what is wrong with you. What are that you need to go to a doctor.
Mhm.
But when we have human contact, it generates a whole neurological hormonal system. If that is taken away from humans, will you function?
Correct.
So that classic saying that, I want AI to do my laundry so that I can write, and I don't want AI to write so that I can do my laundry. That context is so real. Now, what is emotional intelligence? We misunderstand emotional intelligence. A lot of us, we possibly don't understand, we only understand the word empathy.
Mhm.
Now, empathy used over a period of time, it has become very transactional. Okay, it has become a measure. Okay, somebody is rude, doesn't have empathy,
Mhm.
or somebody is angry, doesn't have empathy. That is not how emotional intelligence works. Emotional intelligence, by its very definition, is dynamic human intelligence, as opposed to your IQ. IQ is what? IQ, if you have an IQ of 193, it is fixed across, you know, your lifetime. It doesn't change. You're born with it and you take it to the grave. What is human intelligence? It's got these beautiful different factors. It's still a legacy system, but a good marker of measuring, how dynamically you're approaching something, how self-aware you are. Right now, if I have to come to a podcast and I'm feeling anxiety, where is that anxiety placed in my body? What is happening to me somatically? If somebody is taking a leave, they may just pick up the phone and say, Sukanya, I just need a leave today, I can't come to work. How am I reacting to it? How could she just pick up the phone and say that she doesn't want to come to work? We never used to do that in our times. We used to have a process. We used to have a tone of asking for a leave. So how is it that this generation is able to ask for a leave with such brutality? The next generation feels almost brutal in its approach, that they're like so straightforward, right? So why is that brutality offending me? Is because I'm not used to a system that it the system has taught me to be transactional in my tone.
Mhm.
Okay, I will have to fit into a certain way of operating, and because that generation is not operating in that manner, I am now at that cusp of, okay, what is going on? So, emotional intelligence is about your self awareness, your self regulation, your motivation, your empathy, and your social skills. Okay. Empathy and social skills is what comprises your way of handling others or leading others. That comes second. First is, where is your empathy for yourself? Where is your self awareness? How do you know, like, what is going on right now in my physical self? Do you know how to regulate yourself? And by regulate, I don't mean freeze, that typical emotion of freezing and not reacting or flying away from the situation, walking out. If I'm angry, am I able to say in a very normal tone, Shubhabrata, I'm angry right now with you. What you've said has made me really angry. I will process my emotions. I will tell you what has happened. And trust me, this is not happening in the older generation. This is not happening in the newer generation. The newer generation is being told you're this, you're that, blah blah blah. We are getting into that blame game with them. They are freezing. The older generation is being told that you're redundant. We don't know whether what skills you have is going to match tomorrow or not. And it is playing right into your fear, and therefore we are reacting and responding with fear. We are not responding with self awareness, we are not responding with motivation, we are not responding with uh, emotional consciousness.
Excellent. Thank you. Now, we talked about emotional intelligence, we talked about empathy. Now, another thing which comes here very clearly that when you talk about emotional intelligence, empathy, right, these are two factors which, of course, stand out. And it directly impacts how we form the connections, right? As you rightly said, how can we build trust, right? And how we create the high performing team. So I would like to give you two very common and famous films, right? Snippets, right? Some anecdotes. So first of all, I would like to give an example from Tare Zameen Par. There was a discussion going on between Mr. Avasthi came to visit the school, and Shah Rukh Khan was at Ram Kishore, or yeah, Nikum sir, like was taking the class, and he told the guys, just stay there and I'll be coming back. And then they go to an antechamber room, and then Mr. Avasthi said that मेरी बीबी ने सब कुछ पढ़ लिया है, right, about the dyslexia, etc., etc. Now, क्यों मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ ये सब? क्योंकि आप ये नहीं समझे कि हम अपने बेटे के ख्याल नहीं रखते. And then he respond, I really like the way you said that ख्याल रखते हैं. आपको पता है ख्याल क्या होता है? What is ख्याल रखना? Right? And then he gave a very interesting example of one tribal example, that there was a there is a
Hugging.
tribe. Yeah, you know that. Like they keep when the trees get older, they keep cursing the tree. They don't cut the tree. They keep cursing the tree, and all of a sudden the trees are kind of getting I mean killed or died or whatever you say. And then he explained, ख्याल रखना क्या होता है? क्या हुआ बेटा तुम फिसले? I'm there with you. I'm here there to help you. There's no point in just, right, only talking about the numbers, because no two, right, student or no two kids can be comparable, right? Everyone has its own ingenuity, right? So and we can just stand by them, right? So I'm there for you. I'm there to help you out, not comparing with the brother all the time. इसी को ख्याल रखना कहते हैं, Mr. Awasthi. And then he could not speak anything. He left off. So that's one example. Another example about creating high performing team. I keep giving, when I take classes, I keep giving an example of Chak De India always. We know that the Trachman cycle, where we talk about forming, storming, not being, performing, and charming. And Chak De India was the right example of showing all these components, right? In different, I don't want to give that example. I'm sure like everyone understands, because I'm sure everyone has seen that movie. So my question is coming here, right? Because I wanted to clarify those 2 points with two examples. Now, how does empathy influence the way we build team and organization, right? So is it going to change in the AI era where things are becoming too transactional, too technological, or already you have given some bit of answer to it, but if you can become more specific to building high performing team, and building that ability of having trust on you, and I'm there for you, right, to support you in your trying time, etc., etc. So can you just elaborate on that part?
Sure. So, okay, let me perhaps and for the audience also, kind of take a moment to think, what does empathy mean? You know, what is it, how does empathy show up for you? Is it sympathy? No, we know that it's not sympathy. It's not sympathizing, it's not doing, what's happened. Empathy to me is understanding that everyone has a story. That story may not be valid for you. That story is that person's story. Okay. And this story plays out in three different ways. One is the story to the self, story in within a social context, and story within an organizational context. Now, all of us, we have certain personal needs. Okay. We have some social needs. When we present ourselves to our social context, there is a need. And when we present ourselves to an organization, while we are giving back to the organization, like you rightly mentioned at the outset, that every organization is meant for business and for profit. Now, that the empathy in the context of the organization is the enablement of that story. Okay. I hire five people. Now, five different people are just the same. And this is of course, this is a beaten information that five different people are not the same. They are five different people.
Right.
What does performance mean to these five people? Okay. Something might be, and for the role within the knowledge services, I have even interviewed hairdressers. Okay. It might sound atrocious, but because that person showed the courage to, and they have gotten that job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because they have shown the courage to show up for that interview, because they have shown the courage to share their approach with me, I found that this person can be trained. So
Correct.
at the recruitment process, you are trying to understand the story of the person. You're not trying to look at their skill sets. Skill sets we can build. Okay, what is the story? What story is that person bringing into the organization? So previously, we used to be taught, oh, if you have, women were asked, are you married? What happens if you're getting married?
Mm-hmm.
The organization trying to evaluate that if the person gets married, she will move with the husband. This is a sort of a ridiculous question that has been asked for several years and it still gets asked.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what happens? So in that recruitment process, did you try to understand more story than just containing the person in the context of marriage and the social norms? You did not.
Right.
You as an interviewer went and asked a ridiculous question. Second, now when you're hiring them, they come with their own legacy issues, right? They have been parented in a certain manner, groomed in a certain manner. There are differences between people who have grown up in small towns to bigger cities to handling financial issues. There is always that story. Now am I trying to understand that story? A very classic case in point, recently I was working with someone and they said, so I was working on a very different project, and they told me that I'm facing a lot of organization with my issues. And I had visited their office a couple of times, spoken to a couple of colleagues. There is someone who's been newly hired, and that person is working directly with the owner of the company. And I tried to understand, okay, if this person's coming in, who's there to orient this person to the entire organization? Say, let me just give a random name. Say Pitam. Pitam has joined an organization.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He is very, very well versed with what he brings to the table. He has got all the skills. This organization operates in a very different way. Who is there to handhold that person? So then so the founder told me, there are these issues. And in 1 second, I said, okay, the issue is that there is a missing middle. who's hand holding in your absence? Who's your second line in command? Is there someone who's specifically being given the role of mentoring? People
Correct.
who have been identified through the emotional intelligence framework to know that, okay, these people are more people's person, like we say, people who
Mhm.
hold more passion and who are able to understand other people's stories and bring them on board. I have had fantastic mentors, Shubhabrata. I have had fantastic mentors who have handheld me, who are still mentors to this day as I continue to operate independently, who are my go-to people, who I brainstorm with and try and
Mhm.
understand, how can I process my story? How can I process my emotions? We all of us, I mean, I am a transpersonal therapist, I am an emotional intelligence coach, does not take away from the fact that I come with a story in my personal space and social space and an organizational space.
Agree.
So, who's listening to that story and who am I able to share that story with? That is leadership. That is leading
Right.
self and leading others.
Excellent. Now, coming to the right core concept that we are eager to learn today, that is T.A.R.A, that is which is comprising of four component: trust, accept, resolve, and align. Now, changes often brings resistance. That goes without saying that whenever something is coming up, any disruption, any changes, like we always try to resist because we don't want to come out of our comfort zone. But framework like T.A.R.A, right, gives leaders a way to consciously respond to disruption. They provide a path from fear to constructive action. Now, T.A.R.A may be a new one, but in our, right, I would say when we were 5 to 6, between 5 to 10 years of experience, right, of our working career, there used to be a concept that is still very relevant. I find it is very relevant in many occurrences or many places, which is called SWOT analysis. And I'm sure all of us do that knowingly, unknowingly in all the cases. That is strength, right? Weakness, opportunities, and threats. And how can I convert my weaknesses into my strength? And how can I convert my threats into opportunity? Now, I don't want to get into the other one called TOS, which is an offering from Scaled Agile. They are exactly doing the same thing, but they are naming it as also TOS, right? As another framework, like threat to right opportunity and weakness to strength. Just reverse the order and made it at TOS analysis. Now, my question is, how can frameworks like T.A.R.A support people in adapting to the rapid changes? Now, what is the right uniqueness in that?
Okay. This is so after my heart. And, once I started to, yeah, it's very after my heart. And incidentally, I have a picture of Buddha right behind me, which I love. Uh, this is less of a, there's no religious concept involved, but it, Tara is something that I thought, because I hail from the eastern region, I have
Mhm.
grown up, she's one of our goddesses of
Correct.
transformation.
Right.
And, I was thinking, okay, let her show the way. There is also a concept of Tara in Buddhism.
Mhm.
She's the goddess of compassion. She's the goddess. She basically, Tara, they say that, she seeks you out when you seek her. Okay? What you seek is seeking you, basically, what Rumi says. So that is the entire philosophy. And I feel that, over the last several years of my work with people, that is where this is what I wanted to really use to build this framework and understand what's going on. And it evolved. Tara evolved. So it didn't happen in a day. Tara stands for trust, accept, resolve, and align. Okay, so I should have perhaps shown the whole concept the way I have visualized it. So Tara is like a compass. Okay, first thing you will realize, we as human systems, we are human systems, right? Society,
Mhm.
us, organizations, we're all human systems. So first thing, let us look at Tara in the reverse order, because that is your path of realization of what is wrong. Okay, and then Tara on the way back is your path of resolution. Okay, So, first thing you will realize in any small team, big team, your own self, early in the morning, something doesn't feel right. Something is off. I hear that some new technology is being implemented, and XYZ company has fired so many employees. Something in our heart, right in the center of us, feels off.
Mhm.
That is where alignment starts to go missing. So that is where this compass works. So first thing you realize is A is missing. A is alignment. So our whole human system, that whole alignment, something goes missing. So we are reacting, we express anger, we want to go wage a war against someone. That is only because something is missing. That alignment is missing. Why is the alignment missing? Alignment is missing because resolution is missing.
Mhm.
Something remains. There are maybe two, three, four, five things that have not been resolved. It can be interpersonal or intrapersonal. Something has not been resolved. Either my marriage is not working right, I'm bringing that self into work.
Mhm.
So there is no resolution at home. And or maybe I'm stuffed with work at home and I'm bringing that self into work. So there are these whole unresolved emotions. Maybe I have gone through, and I want to address this topic, but maybe there are times when I have gone through abuse on the street, within our homes. So some emotions remain unresolved, some issues remain unresolved. So that's your R. That R is missing, resolution is missing. So what needs to be resolved? Have we accepted it? Have we accepted that we have been abused? Have we accepted that the workplace is toxic? Have
Mhm.
we been able to accept that we are not aligned to this workplace? Have we been able to accept that AI is real? It's coming. Why do we have fear? Fear is because we are in denial.
Correct.
Opposite of acceptance is not compliance, not shutting down and saying, oh, my boss has said this, so I will have to do it. Acceptance is Lack of acceptance is denial. We would like to deny that AI is coming, and coming in a big way. We would like to wish it away, right? That it's not happening. Which is that, because that acceptance, why is that acceptance missing? Because we don't trust that it is going to work out. So that brings to T. Trust is the only thing, only antidote to fear, anxiety, insecurity, sadness. Why can't we trust the other generation? Because we don't trust ourselves. Why do people micromanage? It's a very core, it's the very core of us that we lack trust. We lack trust because if we trusted everything, we will not survive. The idea now is to build trust. Once we build trust that, okay, things are going to work out, how are we going to build trust? If we don't accept that AI is coming, how are we going to build trust? We can't build trust. Now, if we don't build trust, we will also not build knowledge. In my case, and that, I have taken the leap of faith, it required a lot of trust to be able to do that. And that is why this feels very personal to me, because I have taken on that entire journey, and I take that entire personal journey every day. Every morning, I ask myself, is Tara there? Ask this question. I think it will change everybody personally. Ask this question: is Tara there? What is it that I need to accept? I need to accept that my son has dyslexia. I need
Mhm.
to accept that I'm a dog parent. What is it that I'm in denial of? I need to accept that perhaps my one of my parents have dementia, but I'm still stuck in that age of thinking that my parent is going to be what they were at 40 years of age. Have I accepted the person for who they are at 60 or who they are at 70? So if we start to ask ourselves, this is a simple compass which asks every individual and every organization, Where does trust need to be built? Where does acceptance need to be built? What are the issues that have not been resolved? Investments have come in, AI is being brought in, jobs are going to be cut. Now, what has the organization done to ensure that smooth transition to the employees? Or what has the organization simply saying that, you're redundant, you're redundant, you're redundant? Is the organization building resolution? Have you upskilled? Have you actually, told, have you hired consultants to tell you that, these are the technologies that are coming up? Doctors need doctors, Shubhabrato. Even consulting organizations, and I have consulting organizations as my clients. That is what I'm saying. That even consulting organizations need consultants.
Absolutely.
So unless we are resolving this whole, what, okay, nobody knows what AI is going to look like. The fathers of AI don't know what AI is going to look like. Okay, let
Right.
us not get them so far ahead into the future. Let us plan for it in phases. Guys, we are going to need these many people. So we are going to either upskill you. So give them a plan. From the leadership side, they need to have a plan. From people's own side, you need to survive in a manner. We know how to, grow plants, how to be into agriculture. Can we use AI to build ecosystems within the concept of our locality? There's this little organization within Kolkata. They are into hydroponics. You know, I thought it's a brilliant concept. If you can grow your own food, we are talking of, at the end of the day, what do we need? Food, roti, kapda, makan.
Right.
Maslow's hierarchy remains the same. What have we done? Because of Instagram, we have taken so much of credit from the market. We have taken so much of loans from the market. The news is everywhere on Financial Times and Economic Times how much loans people have taken. Now, what are we doing? Because we have taken those loans, because we are living off EMI, we have not been taught how to do our finances right. We are struggling to understand, okay, what if I have a job loss? Can I be secure? No, I can't. What will
Right.
happen? So that it's not only AI, the whole education system. And I know we possibly we'll talk of education in a bit, but this whole AI system also needs a lot of educational planning, a holistic educational planning. We know how to do maths, but we don't know how to manage our finances. It is
Right.
only for the BCom and the masters, MCom and the chartered accountants. It's not for everybody. So the fear is real for different people in different ways.
Fantastic. Now, so we understood right what Tara brings in, and I really like the way that if is Tara there, right, thinking about that every morning and right, trying to challenge ourselves, like okay, are we accepting, right? Are we resolving? Are we aligning ourselves, right, etc., etc. Now, coming back to the future of culture, strategy, and AI, right? So we know that now the leaderships have to transform as well. And then the leadership becomes an act of balancing the heart and the brain. That means there should be a kind of right mix of empathy and analysis. But at the same time, we cannot just only rely on empathy or the intuition. We need the analysis and the data as well, right? So both should go hand in hand. So the intersection of these is where tomorrow's leader must operate. There should be a right balancing act between empathy and analysis, intuition and data. So, question to you: how do you see leadership evolving at the intersection of heart and brain, where both are required?
So I think there is already a mindfulness, there is already a cognizance for this. How we are defining this going forward is going to be very helpful. Uh, so we have a lot of frameworks, and this whole concept of emotional intelligence, it has evolved over a period of time. It's not an old concept. It's evolved again within the last 60, 70 years. Okay, that's how it got collected and put together. Uh, it's interesting that you use the word intuition. Now, intuition when it comes to technology is good. That is something that has to be replicated to teach generative AI also to be more intuitive in predicting the results. Okay. Uh, in terms of humans, intuition sometimes can be a deterrent because intuition is also your fear.
Mm.
When you rely on intuition, you're afraid, right? When you rely too much on intuition, you're you're you might overthink a solution. Important part is to build your self awareness, one of the most important aspects of emotional intelligence. So Tara is your frame of reference. It's your starting point. It's your step before you need to know that your organization needs to go through that whole program of EQ and EI. Okay. In terms of balancing, you know, if you think of intuition, that am I being intuitive in making my, I've seen the most perfect organization, Shubhabruto, that the organization looks so perfect. If you talk to the team, there is absolutely nothing wrong. But bring in, I would suggest, get a reality check from an outsider. Okay. Inside, we can build that fortress and we can think that, okay, this is it. Whatever way we are operating, this is it. But bring some outside voices, listen. Most important thing is to listen. What is being said? What is the underlying emotion that is being reflected? So when we start to do these kind of leadership dialogues, where we are delving a little more deeper than what is being said, we are so good at taking things literally or drawing our own conclusions. The moment we realize that our conclusions come from a place of a different wiring, we will start to challenge them. So challenge your idea, challenge your own ideas every day. Anytime we feel that we believe something too strongly, challenge it. Run it by someone who doesn't like your idea, who thinks, I would. This is something I learned very early in my life, that if I have to build a PPT or if I have to build a document, what do? We take it to people who will validate us. Instead, take it to the person who doesn't like you. The feedback is amazing. When it comes to culture strategy, when we go to do the organization diagnostics, the hardest part of implementing a new culture, evolving a new culture, is the leadership. The reason being, they think everything is wrong with the organization and they don't have a role to play in this. So, while you mean business, you will have to take a step down. You will have to sit at the same table with the others and genuinely take down points that they are trying to share, process it. Use AI to process what is the point that the team is trying to make. Use AI, put it in AI will tell you that these are the five things that possibly your organization is saying. Why? Because AI is an integrated system. AI looks at culture across different geographies.
Correct.
So put it in a system and see what is required. Handhold your team, but most importantly, leadership themselves need training, need handholding, need workshops, and workshops where it's not like a simple offsite for
Mm.
entertainment. Of course, good, but genuine workshops, genuine rigor. New forms of business are going to evolve, and I'm saying this with a lot of conviction. As far as job securities are concerned, a new form of entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship is going to evolve. It is not going to be salary based. Sometimes it is going to be even equity based. So to be able to bring in value to an organization, you might have to bring in equity. You have to put your skin in the game. So if you want a fearless organization, as a leader you should be fearless, and that is why Tara brings in compassion and courage both.
Correct. Now, finally, we are coming to the last dimension, that is on Bengal and the skilling. So let's bring this conversation now closer to the home, right before we are going to take the question from our audience. Um, Now, Bengal has always been a land of intellect, reform, and creativity. But in the AI era, both the students and the institution must adapt quickly to remain relevant. It's not that we are not seeing that there are not a lot of new subjects being taught, there are a lot of new courses being offered, but still, what shift? Because since you have experience, you have been talking to different organizations, you can understand the need of the organizations. How are they looking for, or what are they looking for? So, what shifts do you think are needed in education and the skilling for the future of the work?
So, one of the things, and I think again, this is something that has been beaten to death, but education needs to reach the last mile. Okay. Uh, I will, I will, I will share one of my observations. My domestic help. She's Gen Z. She very well knows what she needs, but she doesn't have the skills or the conviction. So India has a certain dichotomy. On one side, we are far ahead in terms of technology and intellect. On the other side, we continue to struggle with certain traditions, certain way of saying that we already know. Okay, that is philosophically that needs a shift. That also needs a lot of empathy building, starting from the education system at nursery. Like, we are running after marks, we are running after, what is the degree at the end. Engineering is not about the technological joint entries that you clear. Engineering is in our everyday lives. I had a physics teacher who used to tell me physics is a way of life. It's everywhere. Can we look at revamping the education system from ground zero? And Bangalore has certain very, very interesting education systems. When I started to work in Bengal, I was hoping that because we are academically very strong, now that academic strength has become a transaction. Like you mentioned, I really liked when you said that, that phrase of transactional relationship. Academia and parenting both have become extremely transactional, and you know I want this out of my child.
Right.
That mindset is shifting elsewhere. Can we also see that shift here? People say that we protect our children too much. No, we don't. I mean, I think protection, that safety building for children is a necessity, and unfortunately the silent generation or the generation after that did not have that. Perhaps that kind of safety was not being built. Academically, yes, they were strong, but it also made people transactional. Now we are talking of building empathy into the system. So appreciating what is there in nature. For a technology person, Shubhabrata, I think you will kind of agree that engineering is also there in agriculture,
Correct.
right? Technology is there in agriculture, and I keep emphasizing on agriculture. I keep emphasizing on mental health because these are the skills that we need. This needs to not be normalized. This needs to be, you know, very quick and subconscious. This decision making has to be very, very, very fast and subconscious. That we are there are so many Bengali entrepreneurs, Bengal grown entrepreneurs who are coming forth. They should be fostered. They should be, the word is exposed. Like, that exposure platform needs to be built, and it has to be ongoing. It has to be showcased. That exchange, there should be exchange programs. There should be more proactive exchange programs, and people outside of Calcutta should have access to that.
Absolutely.
There is a lot of difference and between a small town, a Kolkata, a
Mhm.
Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, maybe a London, New York, and Chicago. There is so much of culture is always an outcome of your social ecosystem. Now, if there is a disparity in that social ecosystem, imagine somebody who's coming out of a Burdwan, or somebody who's coming out of, you know, uh, a Malda, suddenly lands in a Bombay. There is a difference in that whole difference in social culture that they need to first bridge. So, what happens if we are already building that bridge at an educational level, not
Correct.
just at a secondary or a higher secondary level, but at a primary level? Parent program related to parents, programs related to, different people, different groups. We'll have to train, and there is no alternative to that. Educationists are going to have a very large responsibility. I know that the Bengal state education policy has come out, the national education policy has come out. A lot of the right half of the brain has to be taken into consideration in these programs. We are right now very left focused, like
Right.
the logical half of the brain. A lot of the soft skills, what is empathy, what does it mean to have empathy for a child? Is it completely not guiding the child, letting the child do whatever the hell they want to do? No, that is not the case. So what are those models of parenting? Everything has to be eh, so the three most important areas that I see in terms of Bengal's education system: look at newer and innovative models, something that is happening in Bangalore right now. Look at exchange programs, and look at education that is outside of the box. In the box, we are very good. It's become at a transactional level. Look at outside the box.
With these, like we are almost coming to the end of the structured, I mean, program like that we wanted to offer today. Anyone has any question, feel free to ask.
Yeah, hi,
Yeah, Shubha, go ahead.
Sukanya. I was listening to this interesting conversation that both of you are having. Uh, in regard to this, not exactly a question, but I have one comment regarding the last part that we are discussing, is education. So, recently I was in a conference wherein I heard some initiative going on globally by the Global Design Thinking Alliance. Mm. And some of the institutions in Bangalore and I think Chennai are involved with this. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to build this concept of VQ in schools. So they're trying to build the concept of this uh, design thinking as early as in the schools. So instead of only focusing on the grades and all, they will work as a group and try to learn as a group, which sounded very interesting to me. And I think it makes a lot more sense these days because, as Sukanya rightly said, we are all very much focused now with grades and marks
Correct.
instead of the actual learning. So if this is implemented across India, I think that will be a very good thing. But on the other hand, I have a question on that around also. So if this is implemented, I mean, we are trying to shift it in the educational level, but then at the organization level also, when people take interviews, they are also looking at the marks and grades, right? Because even my organization, I'm from Lexmark or right now Xerox, so they also select candidates who score only more than 70 or 80% in their careers. So if we shift at the educational institutions, how education is being given or how people are learning, then I think there should be a mind shift in the organization level as well.
Absolutely.
So how do you think these two can start? I mean, uh, education,
So,
I know it has started, but then at the organizational level also we need to change the mindset.
very, very good question, Shubhra. Now, the thing is that, look, if you notice the interview process, okay, it has shifted both ways. One, through AI, through LinkedIn, HR is sifting through the resumes very quickly. Sometimes good candidates are getting out because they're looking at marks and everything. Okay, this is one shift, which I consider myself as a culture advocate. So there are a lot of these people I know who are working to shift this mindset. Okay, and it will come. This change will come, that you can't just, because eventually the it things if things are threadbare in the sort of sifting the resume process, if something is threadbare, it will show up, and you have to trust that it will show up. So recently there was a lot of fire around this one company who had very quickly tried in, and the company's, I think, own senior executive got rejected in that job. And it showed that this whole process of going through a platform and using AI to choose a candidate is not the right way. Now, what is AI measuring? AI is measuring certain words, certain grades. You will remember a time when what percentage of marks you got was very important.
Right.
To that now being shifting to a grade based system. Okay, and the more there is a lateral hire, say you've spent 7, 8, 9 years in working for the corporate sector, the interview game completely starts to shift. So again, my point is that the shift is going to happen. The education system is so basic. If it shifts, it will automate the reason. So let me give you another example. So for example, there was a question when I worked on DEI projects. We started as consultants. We started to work on DEI projects long back. DEI was known as DEI. So during that, there was this whole experiment that if you take away the men from important places, like you know the multilateral organizations, so from those photographs, men were digitally erased. So in a room full of people, there are just two women, there are just three women or four women. Then that started to come into a number. Okay, what is the percentage of women in leadership in different organizations? So some benchmark numbers were created. Then they realized that there were not enough women because there were certain reasons. They broke down the reasons into women having more roles to play within families. That was one of the deterrent factors. So women who were educated were giving that up. There was also a discrimination identified in STEM, right? In the way women were being hired in science and technology fields. There was a disparity identified in the pay structure. So all of this did come up. So these systems are going to slowly change. The moment the education system changed, the moment the education system became more accessible to women, it started to bring in more women. Automatically, it is going to have more ambitious women who are, who will be more aware and conscious of, okay, these are the dynamics that they need to take care of to be able to balance their work. So there is going to be that social struggle, there is going to be that organization wide struggle to adapt to new things. And these are definitely some of the things that they're going to adapt to slowly. But the education system has to reform. That is the very, very, very starting point of any change. Does that answer your question?
Yes, to some extent, yes. And in relation to this, one more thing that I would like to ask is like with the current AI driven world, being a consultant to many organizations, how do you see that the organizations are focusing on developing EI skills, especially in the leaders?
So EI is irrespective of AI.
Yes.
Okay. AI is only a very small portion of the different challenges that the organization has been traditionally navigating. Okay. So sometimes we have to understand that EI perhaps is the bigger umbrella, and it is something that transcends across generation. So AI now fits in a manner where uh, this challenge has kind started to show up. There are fear of job losses, there are fear of acceptance to training. So different organizations are now training their leaders to adapt these self awareness, self emotional consciousness practices from just doing, you're now moving to being, you know, the just like AI is moving from doing to being. So to counter that, organizations are also adopting these practices. They are also making their managers, senior managers, the first time managers more aware of what is coming and why there is a resistance. What do we do to remove that resistance? The more there is this implementation, so if a new technology comes in, previously what used to happen is the seniors used to train the juniors. Now, how do we accept the juniors to really train the seniors?
Right.
There is so much of technology, so much of incubation happening with different institutions where there are these bright youngsters. I met someone the other day sitting on a lot of patents already. We have so much to learn. So organizations are also realizing this, that their pool of newcomers, they are sitting on a repository of information. Now, how do we build that linkage? So one is the ethical code, the handholding and the guidance of the senior generation, and that married to the knowledge, the enthusiasm. Uh, Sometimes, perhaps what the younger generation is trying to do is trying to hold your hand to understand how they navigate the change. So the seniors are being equipped with that kind of those programs. So this is, of course, this is the basis point of our conversation. There are a lot of trainings that are being built to help these generational changes. This is
Excellent.
generative EI also. I mean, every topic that you take off, whether it is in an organizational or a social context, these can be built into and look at how the role of HR or the executives have changed. We are now being called in to become fractional executives.
Mhm.
So the HR has their own roles. They are bringing us in to be fractional executives, advisors in my age and time, so that I'm able to advise, what are those things that need to shift, how do we. So this is an outsider's view, right? And the companies are becoming more and more open to that outside view.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any other question from anyone?
Not a question per se, but Shugana, it was very like endearing to hear you out across. I mean, primarily you spoke about human consciousness and how to take care of that consciousness across the lines, come what may, whether it's a buka or a bunny, right? So, um, my only thing is that, like for example, the national education policy is already here, the NEP 2020, right? um, what I understand, if it is not like at a national level, things have improved a lot. I am seeing a lot of buzz in the like incubation centers and all that. What I think, and I would rather humbly seek a validation. I think Bengal's education policy is by itself lagging. It is not at the national level, because at the national level things have ramped up pretty fast after NEP 2020. And then the small groups that are happening. I mean, we have lateral entries in the government as well, right? So government is not typically depending on only on the IAS cadre. So is that so that Bengal itself by state education it is lagging or not aligning to the central like upgrade, or like if I'm getting or if I'm missing something here?
No, I think, see, the whole ecosystem of Bengal is it's in a way it's self-sufficient and self-reliant. So if you look at the old business houses, there every other shop in Kolkata will be called some sort of an enterprise, right? It is an enterprise. We came up with the concept of SEZ and this and that. It was just possibly 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years old. But Bengal is the stronghold of business. It has been. We need way to water this. Similarly, for education, there are a lot of cadres who are involved. I think the bureaucracy in terms of organization is also bringing in a lot of change, bringing in a lot of outside mind. What is necessary is, like I said, that cross pollination. It is not whether it is there in the national education policy or state education policy. What needs to happen? Say this is my utopia. That what if you take the group of thinkers, the group of people who are, and you create sort of uh, an intellectual corpus to take them, have these exchange ideas with people outside of your state. And it is happening. I'm not saying that it's not happening, it is happening. Similarly, what about doing that with outside universities? And again, that is also happening, but more of it needs to happen,
Okay.
you know, and more of it needs to happen at a school level. So there's a specific school in Bangalore. They don't start by teaching ABCD. They start by teaching kids to feel that affection of parents. They teach parents how to provide that affection to children. We this is a very I felt this was a very revolutionary idea. Or the example that Shubhra mentioned. These are very revolutionary ideas. That whole structure of education needs to also change.
Okay.
Okay, it's not, while there are policies, and that's why a lot of things are available at a policy level, but the actual acceleration at the ground level needs to happen.
Okay.
Bengal has this responsibility for the entire eastern region, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
That we can be that cradle.
Right.
Does that make sense,
Absolutely.
Peter?
Yeah, yeah, perfect. Thanks.
Great. Any other question from anyone? Okay, great. So thank you so much, Shukanna, for this rich discussion. Right, we have explored a lot of things, right? So the fears, insecurities, the four F, like flight, fight, fawn, and freeze. I personally like that part and how you explained it. The role of emotional intelligence, right? The guidance offered by the T.A.R.A framework, how we can use it on a day in, day out basis, right? Not only for the leadership, but on a personal point as well. And most importantly, the future of culture and strategy and the skilling imperative for the Bengal. So I know that, uh, like in villages, if we go, right, I have been associated with, right, certain villages, and I'm seeing that there is so much of potential. But when it comes to the right, application, like the way you said, the infrastructure of the education kind of should be changed. There is no dearth of talent, right? Even in the so and it's a common problem and a complete myth that only the talents are there in the Kolkata or in the suburbs, but there are enormous talents available, right, in the villages. It's not only for the right, just to politicize and other things, that we are always getting the toppers coming from the villages. Truly, they are having the core talents, right? They're still there in the kind of villages. So that we cannot ignore them. So
One of the
coming,
things,
yes,
if
please
I
go
can
ahead.
add, one of
Yes,
the things, and thanks to Pitam for asking that question. I think one of the points that I wanted to make is that industry has to invest in education.
absolutely.
Industry has to partner with the education system. Until the big industrial houses, in whatever format they come in and invest in the state, it is impossible only for a set of uh, bureaucrats and leaders
Correct.
and people who have homegrown and who have stayed here to be able to foster this whole education system. So I think industry definitely has to come in and invest, not just in business but in the education, and you know sort of taking on villages as their patrons. That okay,
Correct.
this is the village I have adopted, this is the district that I have adopted, and this is something that I'm going to bring up.
Correct.
This one model has to work.
That may be their future pipeline also, right? Moving forward, who
Yes,
knows?
yes, yes.
And finally, to end, right, what emerges is fear is natural, right? It's a consequence, but the leadership in the AI era is all about moving through fear and trust, empathy, and alignment. It's about combining the strength of machines with the right wisdom of humanity. So this is how we lead, not just in the AI era, but in the human era that must continue alongside it. So with this, right, thank you so much again, right, Chukonna, right, can't thank you enough for this, right, really great discussion. And of course, the participants, right, for asking the right question and sharing your views as well. So we'll continue to have this kind of discussions. And I think next week, Pritam, we have your session. So we are looking forward for it, like how AI is, and how governance is coming into picture as far as the AI is concerned. Till then, thank you so much, and we'll meet next week. Bye bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.